Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of our Hopsworks 5-minute interviews. Again, this is another recording that we're starting as part of our efforts to build a bigger community around machine learning and machine learning platforms. And today, I'm really, really excited to have what I think is someone that you might know in our industry on this recording, and that's Pau Labarta Bajo. How are you, Pau?
Good. Hi, Rick. Hi.
Hey,
Thanks for inviting me.
and thank you for taking the time. It's great to have you here. I know before Christmas, it's always a little bit of a rush. So thank you for taking the time. But, why don't you just quickly introduce yourself? I know you have a huge following on the different socials, but could you please just introduce yourself? Who are you and what do you do? And,
Mhm.
that would be a good way to start the conversation.
Absolutely. Well, I'm a machine learning engineer. So I studied math originally. So let's say 10 years ago, I was dreaming of becoming a math researcher in academia. But then along the way, I just lost the interest. And then I started working initially 10 years ago as a quant analyst. So these are the guys in banks that are basically building statistical models
Yep.
to manage risk, price financial derivatives, and so on. And at that time, that thing was not called machine learning, that was called applied statistics.
Yep.
And then eventually, when this machine learning kind of thing hit and became like an established thing, maybe, I don't know, 8 years ago or so, and then I decided that I wanted to be a data scientist. So
Yep.
then I changed jobs. I left the bank and I moved to Serbia because my wife is from Serbia.
Yep.
And there I started working for a gaming company,
Okay.
mobile gaming company. And that was a great experience for me because it's an environment that produces tons of data.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of work as a data scientist. So basically, I never studied a master's in data science, which people do these days, but I learned it by working as a data scientist.
Hmm.
And then step by step, also machine learning, because it's somehow the next step. You start building dashboards, plotting data, understanding the data, and then what you want to do next is to automate these things. And this is when you start thinking of machine learning as an automation and mechanism. And then I started building machine learning solutions there. And then, as usual, this field moves so fast that there are so many things happening that I felt I was missing. So I said I need to change jobs and I need to work in some way that I'm able to continuously learn new things. And then I started doing freelance. So I started working as a machine learning engineer through TopTal, which is one of the main freelance platforms.
Yep.
And I was doing that for 2 years. And then around 2 years ago, I quit that and I started basically what I'm doing now, which is creating educational content. So helping aspiring machine learning engineers and data scientists enter into the industry from a very hands-on applied way, which is exactly the path that I took. So I always try to preach what I do.
Yeah.
So, and this is what I've been doing for the last 2 years. So producing content on social media, giving value for free to people, helping them actually build stuff using machine learning, not just read, which is a common mistake, but build stuff because that's the only way you learn. And then eventually also making courses that I can sell because I need to pay a mortgage. So yeah, so that's somehow how it closes the loop, and my hobby becomes my job. So that's how it works.
That's fantastic, and we'll put some links to your profile and your content with this recording, obviously. So, if I understand you correctly, from math to statistics, applied statistics to machine learning, that's kind of like the progression, if I understand it, and then now you're kind of helping other people do the same journey.
Yes, exactly.
Super cool, super cool. And so, what is it that that attracts you in this field? What do you think is so interesting about it, and that makes you happy to work in it every day?
Well, the first thing is that it has a lot of open problems. So it's constant. Every new thing that is discovered, let's say from the science side. So there's a new architecture, a new paper. That's just the first step. But taking that, converting those prototypes, these ideas into things that work in a business setting, that requires a lot of engineering, a lot of challenges, problems. So basically, what I like as a mathematician, I like solving problems, and machine learning is full of them. And the other thing is that these problems transfer very well across industries. So let's say by working in machine learning, you somehow give yourself the opportunity to change industries more often than in other in other disciplines, and that's
Mhm.
something that I've done in the past that I found very stimulating. So it gives you the chance to learn how mobile gaming industry works, how financial trading works, how retailers optimize inventories using machine learning, how you predict demand for, let's say, a company like Uber, like how do you keep your operations team busy. So it applies to many different problems, always following the same principles, like good data, good data engineering practices, um, but it has always like business specific problems that you need to understand. You need context, so you also need to engage with the team around you. So you need to, let's say, it takes some time for you to understand what's the problem that needs to be solved as a machine learning engineer. And then once you understand it, and takes a while, you are able to basically formalize it into a specific machine learning problem and then solve it using the tools that most of the times you already know, but often you also need to go one step ahead and learn something new from the technical side. So, I mean, it's very stimulating, and that's something that I like. And yeah, hopefully, I mean, it can be applied not only to, let's say, short-term problems that bring money, but also to more, let's say, bigger issues that we have these days, like optimization of a lot of things, which are basically, I'm referring to pollution, I'm referring to processes which are far from optimal, a lot of stuff which is not solved because, like, it's not relevant, it's not, but as soon as there starts to be more political pressure on that, well, the way to do it properly is you get data, yeah, you analyze the data, you optimize based on that, and then, so, I mean, I see it as a tool to improve a lot of stuff. So that's basically
Fantastic. I'm actually reminded of a book that I read by Jeff Lawson. He's the CEO of Twilio. Ask the Developer. Have you ever read that book? It's a really cool, man. Real cool book, and it basically positions the developer, or the, by extension, the engineer in general, as a problem solver. He's someone that, or she is someone that solves problems. And that is attracted by that field. And so therefore, if you just bring a task to an engineer, they will say, "Chuck you, Farley, this is boring. I'm getting out of here." But if you give them a problem to solve, it's actually, they're motivated by that. They're really, really interested in that. And I think that's kind of what I hear in your story there. It's fascinating. And it's also what attracted me personally to the machine learning field is. There's so much potential. There's so many things that we can still get better at. I was really inspired by the protein folding example a couple of years ago. That's like, wow, this would have never happened if we didn't have the technology behind it.
Yeah.
So, anyway, that's
no, but that's very interesting because let's say that science basically started all this engineering.
Yep.
Now the engineering is giving it back to the science because these days now they are trying to use large language models to basically help mathematicians or physicians discover basically logical relationships, theorems, things that hold either in this mathematical world or even in nature. So, I mean, it's very interesting and applied exactly to the molecular level. It gives us a way to basically explore this extremely highly dimensional space in a very efficient way. So it's I mean, all these models soon will become like pocket calculators. Like decades ago, like it's not going to do the job for you, but it's taking you there orders of magnitude faster, and that's the idea. So
Pau, we have a problem because I think this might be a long conversation if we're not careful. But I think
let's continue.
It's probably more of a beer conversation anyway. But finally, to wrap this up a little bit and keep it under 5 to 10 minutes, where do you think people should go? What I mean, obviously you produce a lot of your content on your own, but is there like one resource where you feel like, they should definitely not miss that and really learn more about that in order to be great ML engineers, or great professionals in the field? But any ideas that come to mind?
Well, I always say the same. If you're at the very beginning of your machine learning path, I would recommend you go to Kaggle, which is a very known website with a lot of data sets, a lot of notebooks, a lot of competitions. And it's a way for you to actually get your feet wet, build your first models, understand how it works, like splitting the data, evaluating your model. So you somehow understand the fundamentals. But as soon as you feel comfortable with that, what I always recommend is that you work on projects, which means you take a problem that interests you, a real world problem, and you find data, basically data that can help you model it, predict something relevant, and basically build a project, because this helps you in two ways. First, you learn a lot because you also feel a frustration very often because you feel you're afraid. I mean, I have that feeling these days. Like, for example, these days, as a Python developer, I'm trying to learn Rust, which is a system. It's a more finesse kind of language, but it's gaining a lot of popularity in data engineering, in MLOps, and especially in LLMOps. And I'm going again through this process of, if I start learning Rust by checking books and trying to understand how everything works, I get lost. I lose the motivation. What I'm doing instead is I'm fixing a problem. So I say, I want to deploy a model using Rust, a machine learning model, something very specific, very narrow. Let's do it. And yesterday I spent the night basically frustrated, trying to understand why this thing is not compiling. But then eventually I found it. I was like, okay, now I really learned a lot by wasting 3 hours. But I learned more than just following like a curriculum, which is basically, they're taking me like a baby. Because, as I said, machine learning is about solving problems. So you should base your learning on solving problems. Otherwise, you won't get there, and you will know that. That's the worst feeling. You have this imposter syndrome. So my recommendation, get your feet wet with Kaggle, but as soon as you're with that, build a project. And for that, make it public, so you also build a portfolio. And believe me, you will do more than 90% of applicants out there. So
fantastic. Thank you so much for that, Pau, and it's really great advice. Not just for machine learning, by the way. I'm thinking of showing this to my teenagers actually as well. But that's really great of you to share that with us. Thank you again for taking the time. I know this was in between other activities, so thanks a lot, and I look forward to hearing more from you in the next couple of months and years. Thank you, Pau.
Thanks to you, Rick. Thanks to you.
Thank you. Bye.
Ciao.